Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the Woods, a Woodland Church podcast. My name's Pete, and I am here with Brittany Gray. And today we are going to kind of do what this podcast has become over the last few weeks. Get a chance to meet you, talk to you, learn who you are, but also as we continue as a church to work through some changes and some shifting, you're a big part of it. And so I'll kind of just start. The vision or dream of this podcast originally was just being able to talk through, hey, what did we talk about on Sunday? And in the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's really turned into an opportunity to not only get to know staff, but have some, good, but sometimes hard, serious conversations about where we're as a church. Yeah. And so as we talked in our last episode, I was going to say last week, but we recorded it earlier with Devin and Brit, the pastors of the Marshall campus, kind of let everybody know they were moving on, got to tell their story. In that conversation, we had said, and our plan moving forward is this person named Brit, and people that maybe aren't as familiar, don't know. I said, hey, next podcast, we're just going to have you on. So welcome. Good to have you.
So here I am in the flesh.
Before we started, you had mentioned that this is unusual for you because you were a news reporter.
Oh, yeah.
You were the one asking the questions.
That was a lot easier.
Yeah.
I don't like being in this seat. Now I have empathy for those who I interviewed.
And we grilled. So here's what I want to follow really kind of the same format the last few podcasts have, just because I think they've been good and they've sort of worked, which is just getting to know you a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes at our Marshall campus, the role that you play in that. So why don't we just kick off with snapshot right now of what you currently do at Woodland, family, all that kind of stuff. Who are you?
Who am I?
Who is Brit?
Okay. Here, as far as
you
Woodland
have no life outside of here. No, this is your identity.
Well, not entirely true, but close. Here, I have the opportunity to help with discipleship over at our Marshall campus. So everything that falls under the umbrella of spiritual formation, one-to-one discipleship, small groups. I get involved with helping with men's breakfast, women's brunch, and kind of everything in between. Anything that helps us as adults grow closer to Christ.
And how long have you actually been doing it? How long have you been on staff?
It depends. I'm on my second tour. My first
you tried to
tour,
get out and they pulled you back in.
My first tour, as I call it, I was here. I started in 2020 working, helping out with children's ministry, and I was here until 2023. And then we stepped away and moved over to the Marshall campus. And we sat for a few months before my husband and I were like, we want to help. So we had Bri and Devin over and we said, it is not up to us. You tell us, where do you need help in Marshall? Jake was naturally a good fit for worship.
Jake is your husband?
Yes, my better half. And for me, Dev said, I could really use some help with small groups. And I said, no coincidence, I would love to help. And that's so I started volunteering in that area, I think in June-ish of 23. And then I came back on staff, February. Timelines are a little funky, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kids, how long have you been married?
I have a brood of children.
A brood.
I have a zoo. If you are in Marshall, you know that. So my husband and I got married in 2008, right out of college. And we have 4 kiddos. My oldest, Caleb, is 13. He'll be in 8th grade. Luke, my 11-year-old, is going into 6th grade. Ainsley's my 2nd grader. And then my littlest one, Scarlett, will be 3, actually, tomorrow, the day this podcast airs.
Cool. My wife and I argued over the name Ainsley.
I love it.
For a long time.
Obviously.
Julie was a big fan of the word, and I couldn't help but picture a person on a yacht with a sweater wrapped around their shoulders. Ainsley.
Okay, we haven't taken it there. I will tell you, she is my child with a toot. So she is.
It's Ainsley. It just sounds like somebody.
She's known as Ainzilla from time to time.
She plays tennis. She dates a guy who drives a convertible. I don't know. It's just Ainsley. It felt a bit bougie to me when Julie first pitched it. But
as long as she's taking care of me, I don't care.
Yeah, that's your retirement plan.
Yes. I didn't see her as my retirement plan, but I could get on board.
Yeah. before that, before you stepped into this in 2020, you had a completely different career. You were a news anchor person.
Sure.
Okay. So a couple questions. First, I'm curious about that season of life, but then also how that season transitioned into this thing. So how long were you doing that? What made you want to get into news and all that stuff? And then what made you want to shift?
If I back way up, I grew up doing musical theater. I loved being on stage. It was interesting listening to you sitting down with Devin Bree and Devin talking about his dreams. And I always thought that I was going to be on Broadway. I have a rockin' voice, which is why I am not on the worship team. I loved it. And that obviously didn't pan out. And I think it was probably my mom who suggested, I don't know, sophomore, junior year, hey, have you thought about broadcast journalism? So I went to Mizzou, which is where I met Jake, and got a degree in broadcast journalism. Right out of school, he and I moved to London, and I worked for CNBC Europe as a news assistant for a little while until our honeymoon money ran out. We came back to the States. I'm from Chicago. He's from Missouri. We were looking for a job. For me, he got a degree in forestry, which...
Forestry.
Yes.
Okay.
He now works for the fire department. So you see how that worked out. Not well. So anyways, I ended up getting a job at a CBS affiliate in Lansing. So I worked as a reporter, moved to morning anchor, and then moved to another TV station in Kalamazoo, which is what brought us out to Battle Creek. He was working in Lansing. Jake was working in Lansing at the time. I was working in Kalamazoo. We kind of met in the middle in Battle Creek.
So, I mean, the extent to which you details, whatever, I'll clear up to you, but just at least like a kind of a rough overview, why leave that and start working with kids at a church? Were you a Christian growing up? Was faith part of your background?
Ish. I grew up attending a Catholic church. We were faithful attenders. My parents would not let us miss a Sunday, but I never, growing up, had a relationship with Christ. I was the kid in church who spent the hour looking through whatever the trifold paper was that they would hand out, trying to keep myself occupied with everything but the Mass.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't have a relationship with Christ growing up, even into my adult years. Once we started having kids, it was more of an obligation. I feel like I have to go to church for my kids' sake. And then I would say 2017-ish, we weren't yet attending this church, but that really started just a road for me that was very dark. We were talking about a lack of hope this morning. I was in a space where I had no hope, and I was just lost and extremely broken. And in 2018, we started attending this church, and there's no such thing as a coincidence. God placed us in this church at that time, knowing the journey that was ahead of us, the mountains that we were going to have to climb. I was still in news 2017, 2018, and based on just kind of the destruction that was going on in my life at that time, we made a decision that I was going to get out of news. I stepped into sales for a year, but then in 2019, I guess the best way to put it is God literally brought me to my knees. And it was an awakening like I can't quite explain. So we were here at that time, and we had, maybe it's why I'm so passionate about community and small groups, we had a group of people, young families, who literally surrounded us in the fall of 2019 and cared for my family, my kids, in a way that I just have so much gratitude. They loved us. They supported us through a really dark time for me, for Jake. And so how do we go from that really dark time in our life to children? I had been coming in pretty frequently meeting with someone who was on staff at the time who was just kind of loving me, mentoring me, supporting me, guiding me through the things that I had been struggling with. And we started having a conversation about someone who was in that role who was going to be moving away. And would I be interested in coming on staff in a part-time role to help with elementary kiddos? I wasn't a kids person at the time.
Are you a kids person now?
It took probably, 3, 4, 5 months for me to really see the beauty in where God had placed me at that time. I was that type of person who was like, I don't know if I'll ever have kids. And then you have kids and you're like, I can't imagine not having them. I couldn't imagine me helping out with children's ministry here. And then within 6 months, I was like, I adore these kids. And so, that's where we were for 3 years.
Cool. So you step into role with kids. Woodland has a pretty chaotic season there. You live through it. And then about 2 years ago or so, you guys end up at the Marshall campus.
Yep.
Come on staff there.
Yeah.
And so been part-time that whole season.
Yes.
We're doing groups, something like that. What was that transition like to move into like more of, I guess maybe like if I could use the phrase, more of like a traditional pastoral shepherding kind of position rather than maybe doing kids things, stepping into groups and helping people? Like, how was that for you? Was it an easy transition? Was it something, a big learning curve for you, or how's it been?
Yeah, it was definitely a big learning curve for me, but there was something deeply seated inside of me for the last several years that knew at some point, whether it was at Woodland or elsewhere, that I would be working with adults. In that really difficult season of my life, I knew when I had been meeting with that staff member, in the back of my mind, it was like, what she is doing for me, I have no doubts I will be doing for someone else one day. And so as difficult as that transition was, moving from kids to adults, it was almost like God was like, I've got you here. This is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what I have made you for. It felt just really natural.
Cool. The first interaction that you and I had, I remember I had like one-on-ones with all the staff when I was interviewing. Mine with the time I spent with you was probably the one that stuck out in my mind the most.
Okay.
Partly because, so if you're someone watching and you're familiar with like the Enneagram, so you're an Enneagram 5 and so am I.
I think.
So what's interesting though is Enneagram 5s are not the most common number to find in church work. It's just our personalities, tend to be a little more introverted, a little more like to ourselves, reserved.
Yes, all of those.
Definitely. One of the things about Enneagram 5s, generally speaking, no one's fits perfectly in a box, but Enneagram 5s tend to have a little bit less of a emotional reserve tank, and therefore
you're speaking my language.
Get a bit overwhelmed with like heavy emotions and need a nap after it. But at the same time, I remember talking to you and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Because I don't get to talk to a lot of, part of the reason I don't talk to a lot of Enneagram 5s is because a lot of Enneagram 5s don't want to talk to people. The outgoing ones are kind
There's
of rare.
some truth to that.
Are you an introvert? Or are you more in the middle? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
But you're not shy. You're just more of like you recharge by maybe alone time.
Yeah.
Or are you shy?
I don't think anything happens by chance. Like, I don't think me being in musical theater growing up, I don't think that was a coincidence. I don't think me spending a decade in news was a time wasted. I think that it was building me for this time, whatever that looks like. Am I an introvert? Most people wouldn't think so, but those who know me really well know I can only people for so long. You say, you want to talk to people and then you need to go home and take a nap. I went home yesterday after church and crashed.
Oh, absolutely. I sleep every Sunday.
I just have to. Do I love people? Absolutely. I prefer the one-on-one conversations, being able to sit across the table and talk with someone. Those do fill my bucket. to a certain extent. After a while, it's like, okay, I just need to go be with my crew. Jake knows my time to recharge is with our crew of 6. It's a lot of people, but our crew of 6 in our jammies, playing cards, watching a movie. That's where I recharge.
One thing that I've found, just because I've been curious a lot, in every human's attempt to make sense of themselves, you learn things about other people and how they're wired. That's why like personality stuff always interests me. What I've found is, because I sometimes will be like, what other people are like me or this way. And it's not actually abnormal for 5s to be in things like acting or stage things, because at least for me, I'm more comfortable on a stage than I am sitting in a room of people. Like when I'm on a stage, I actually feel completely free to be myself.
Yeah.
And what I've struggled with as a pastor sometimes is we had some friends over for dinner, like very early on when we were here, and like in our probably 3rd week here, and their son is like a 8th grader. After like 2 hours of us sitting there, he looks at me and he goes, "You're very different than when you're on the stage." And then so like, well, I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I thought you'd be like more energetic and fun. I'm like, sorry. But it's not that I'm fake on the stage. It's that I'm actually more comfortable on the stage. And I actually feel more myself when I'm up there.
Yeah.
And I feel more of like kind of this like weird
energy.
Yeah. I have energy on the stage for sure. I lack it with people. But I don't know. Do you ever feel that?
Well,
Did it lead you to theater and stuff?
It's funny that you say that, because it's a totally different dynamic when you're up on the stage and you're playing this role. But as you're talking, I'm thinking like, yeah, that resonates with me, especially when I was in news. When I worked for the station out of Kalamazoo, during the week, I would fly solo a lot, meaning I was like the reporter, I was the camera person, I was the editor, I did all of the above. And so you'd have to set up your camera like randomly wherever you were. I'd have to get it set up. And so people would think I was talking to myself, and really you're live talking to the anchors back in the station. But that is more comfortable for me, right? Because there's not a ton of people looking at me. It's just me and the camera in my mind.
Yeah.
Than being, I do announcements pretty frequently at the Marshall campus, and that still intimidates me to do that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's just different people are. It's interesting. Okay, so you stepped into this role, and then for you, this whole span of time in the grand scheme of things has been pretty short for everybody, but essentially you find out about Devin and Bree's decision.
Yeah.
What's now maybe a month ago or so, and 2 months, I kind of lost track of myself.
Yeah. A couple of months ago.
And just to give a little bit of backstory, this has come up before, but offer some clarity for everybody. When Devin informed me of his decision, my first take on it was, I've been here like a week. I'm not sure what's next. I've been to Marshall one time, the campus. And so I began to just, hey, let's talk. Let's get some people together. Let's find out the best way to move forward. I've had some experience with multi-site churches in the past. I've worked for 2 slightly different models, but one was kind of had some similarities. But our first thing was just to say like, okay, let's separate long-term and short-term. What's a short-term plan? What's a long-term plan? And all of our team generally agreed in talking, we're not sure what the long-term plan is right now. But at least for now. And I remember sitting around a table, and there was probably 6 people at the table. And I remember we were brainstorming, and then I don't remember who it was. I can't remember, but it was like, well, Britt Gray would be right for that. And it was like this moment where everybody, talking. Yeah. I was like, yeah. And I remember just being like, I was new. I was like, okay, I don't know Britt super well. I knew you were, but I was like, I don't know her super well. I'm like, are we in agreement with that? And it was one of those moments as a leader where, you can talk and argue and put things on a whiteboard and go back and forth for hours and hours and feel like you're not getting anywhere. And then there's those moments where the whole room is just like, yep, that's it. And I remember it took maybe 2 minutes of just being like, oh, okay. And I said, let me sit down a little bit. And I I didn't even pray about it that long, to be honest. I just felt like, yeah, let's see if so we approached you. We said, hey, would you be interested in stepping into this role? It was a chaotic season. We weren't even sure what we were asking of you. You kept saying, can you give me a job description? And I was like, nah.
Help me understand what this looks like.
Talk to me about that season, maybe before we get into the specifics.
Oh, gosh.
Are you okay reliving it?
Where do I even start? That, I think I empathize with the folks at Marshall, because I remember the night before Bree and Devin sat me down, I got a text message. I think maybe it was a group text message between me, Devin, and Bree that just said, hey, would you be available to come in a little early tomorrow to talk? And I told Jake, I'm like, what am I getting called to the principal's office for? Like, I thought I was in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, thinking back, did I say something? What did I do?
Was it a joke?
Who did I offend? Your head just starts spinning. And so I just said, sure, okay. And I sat down, and I've got to just be the most naive person on the planet, because when they sat me down, I'm like, I had no idea what to expect. And then they told me, and honestly, I've told other people this, I just started crying because I didn't see it coming. I know others did, but I didn't see it coming. And I know in the weeks that followed, you and I had a conversation, and I was just trying to process some decisions that I was faced with. And there was this time period. I don't know. I must have looked ridiculous. We have the atrium here at the Battle Creek campus, right by the windows where the cross is. I can't count the amount of times I just went down there with my AirPods and worship music, and I laid on the ground, and I just, my hands were open, and it was, God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I'm not making this decision. I've made decisions before without consulting you first, and it didn't land well. I cannot step left or right until I hear from you. And so it was a hard handful of weeks. But I feel like he did offer clarity for both Jake and I.
And there was, I guess, for maybe and I do want to get into specifics. I think it'll be helpful for people, especially Marshall people. Can I say Marshall people? Is that the right? People who attend the Marshall campus. But even so it's, I guess the difference between someone saying, hey, you stepped out of your career, you want to come part-time help with kids ministry for a while or help us run groups, versus do you want to be a full-time career pastor? That was kind of it wasn't just hey, do you want to shift into a slightly different role? It was is this something that is the rest of your life that you want to do? And I remember when I first brought it up to you, I didn't understand that dynamic in your own heart and mind, because we hadn't talked, we hadn't known each other that well yet.
Sure.
It took a few weeks for that to come out of I'm thinking maybe do I want to do this? Literally do this. I'm not I'm on this blip and then I'm going to be back into journalism, or do I want to do this? And you had already done licensing and stuff with to become a licensed pastor. And so you weren't just wrestling with a positional shift. You were wrestling with is this what is my calling kind of thing? And I could see it for this extended period of time. I remember a couple of times one time I was looking for a space to read, and I walked into the room. Oh, sorry.
I'm on my knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to hear from that and figure that out. What was that dynamic like between you and God during those couple of weeks?
Oh, I guess to jump back, even going back to 2019, 2020 time period, I had no doubts that God had called me into ministry. I believed it wholeheartedly. I went through that difficult season.
So you were done with broadcast even then?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, from fall of 2019 until probably early 2020, I really didn't know much about God. I was really trying to figure him out. Who are you? What have you saved me from? And what have you saved me to? I didn't understand any of that, but I knew he was trying to talk to me. And so it was 6 months from the time he brought me to my knees till I started taking classes. And it took, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. And so I've been licensed for a few years, slowly working on the rest of my classes. But I knew that ministry, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
As far as, that this summer and, the decisions that kind of were before Jake and I, it was, God, I don't understand what's happening here. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking of me. We are preparing to step into a really difficult time at Marshall. And I want to know if you're asking me to do this, I need to know that it's you telling me to do this and not me thinking, yeah, this is a good idea. Sure. Sure. I needed to know that he was saying, Brit, I am asking you to do this.
What does that look like?
What does that look like?
Yeah. How for you is, okay, I know God's telling me to do this.
Yeah. Okay. So
like an inaudible voice.
Practically speaking, I was, honestly, I was looking for an audible voice. I say that because in the months leading up to that initial conversation with Devin and Brit, I had heard him in a couple of ways. That was very clear to me, that I was just trying to sort through, this is what you told me, God. I don't understand what that means. It was more some things that I was walking through personally. And so I was waiting for those audible confirmations. So
have you audibly heard the voice of God before? I'm curious. I'm not mocking you. I'm actually asking.
No.
Or you mean like internal dialogue monologue?
Definitely internal dialogue. But it was so strong that there was no doubt that it was him speaking to me. So I was waiting for that. And so after I sat down with Devin and Bri, and then I sat down with all of you and began to process like, okay, here we are. It's A or B, right? These are two things that you have placed in my lap. I guess the easiest way to put it is I spent my quiet time. I'm an early riser. I have 4 kids, so I have to. I'm generally up between like 4:30, 4:45 each morning, and I have a chair that I sit in my house, and I have the same routine. It's journaling, it's prayer, it's
why
Bible
do you
reading.
Pray so early if Jesus isn't awake yet?
He is definitely awake. He actually meets me there and then takes a nap when you start your time. When you start your time, because he's exhausted from our conversations. What does it look like? Lots of journaling. I wasn't a big journaler until probably 6 months ago. I had a friend bring it up time and time again, and I finally was like, okay. And it's been a game changer to be able to sit with the Lord with all of the questions that I have and to try to wait as patiently as I can, which I'm not great at, but for him to start pushing me in one direction or another. So when it came to this decision and I wasn't hearing the way I thought I would hear, I would have a lot of conversations with Jake, some other people in my circle, just some wise counsel. But Jake said it so perfectly. He's like, honey, you have things that you're telling me that you're not settled with if you move in this direction. And yet you are confident as you talk about Marshall and Pete's leadership and just the direction that Woodland Church is moving. You're not hearing him the way that you want to, but he is confirming the direction you're supposed to go. And so that was really solidifying for me.
Practical moment for people listening. I always want to, if there's opportunities for us as leaders and just Christians to share things. I don't mean this like specifically, but in general, if someone were to open your journal, what would they see? And I don't mean like give me, I mean like, is it questions? Is it thoughts? Is it you talking out loud? Like what does your journal look like?
Yeah. I get frustrated when we come into a space like God's house and we automatically throw on the mask. We get the question, how are you? And what's the answer? I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. The reality is we're not one of us is. We are all broken in some form or fashion. And so my journal is my brokenness. My journal is, God, these are the things that I'm struggling with personally. I don't understand why when I ask you to help me in this area, why I can't get over that hurdle. My journal is, God, this is what I'm facing at the church. These are the insecurities that I'm up against. And I don't know how you want me to respond, or even if I'm supposed to be responding. So it is my rawest, truest self, laying myself before Jesus, saying, I can't do these things without you. I need to know how you would handle this if you were me.
Yeah. So what, oh gosh, there's so many ways I could take that. For people listening, you get presented this opportunity. Real quick, there's a little bit of difference between it from Devin. We've talked about that when we made the announcement. The primary difference is we're not asking you to get up and preach every week, which would have just probably made this a massive load.
Sure.
But instead, we're going to have some different people helping out with the preaching. But then the other parts of being a campus pastor and leading people and things, you're stepping into it. What are some of the fears or insecurities?
I think the fears and the insecurities on my end are, God, do I have what it takes to do what you're asking me to do? I also recognize that in this season of transition that the shepherds are adored, and for good reason. And there is absolutely no way that I could fill Devin's shoes, and I'm not trying to. But I also, I don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
You know?
I do know. I do understand.
They have led so well in Marshall over the last 5-6 years that I just want them to know that as a church, we are going to step up and it's going to be okay. But again, the insecurity in me that, God, are people going to take off because, Devin and Bree have left? That's a reality, right?
Yeah.
And I have to just trust that he is going to show us what's next for Marshall. He's done it so many times over the last 6 years in my life that the flesh side of me doubts, but the side that has seen him work over and over again just has to trust he's gonna do it again.
Yeah. The hardest thing about like this situation in terms of like, you're not just stepping into an open space, which to be honest was kind of my story. And I was really grateful for it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't come to Woodland feeling like I had to live up to somebody, or I didn't feel like I was being compared to another pastor, because it's been almost 2 years. Just basically like on September 28th, it's like, love you, bye Devin. And then October 5th, it's you.
Sure.
Is like real. That's real.
Yeah.
I can imagine just I don't know, stress the right word, or just the weight of feeling that. So I definitely see it. I don't think it's naive to think to yourself like, well, are people going to leave because of this? They probably will. There probably will be people that leave. And then you have to go that whole battle of, do I take that personally? Do I wear that on myself and like, oh, I suck or something? It's real.
Yeah.
But it's also, I don't know about you, but sometimes I like to read stories in the Old Testament, especially of people who are often, it's like almost a personality thing. Like some people read the stories and they see heroes. I like to read them and see flaws, because it helps me. Like Moses stuttered, and like Gideon was afraid, and Samson was horrible as a person, and David was insecure and made mistakes. Like how flawed all the people, anyone presented as a hero in the Bible other than Jesus is presented to us flawed.
Correct.
Which always helps me when I'm in those moments. Like, well, they were terrible too. What things are you most excited though about stepping into this role?
Gosh, can I take a rain check on that question? Most excited. if I'm being honest, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be anticipating stepping into this. We are, for better or for worse, we're really, I mean, even as a staff at the very beginning of trying to understand what this transition is going to look like. We've talked about it, but I think I'm still trying to understand what my role will be in Marshall behind the scenes. What am I most excited about? I've told people most excited about continuing to beat the drum that I've been beating for the last 2 years. I want to see people come to an intimate and deeper, an intimate walk with Christ, find deeper intimacy with the Lord. And I think this is a season where it's like, okay, you've got to put your money where your mouth is. If you desire that relationship with the Lord, what does your Monday through Saturday look like? Because Devin has done such an incredible job of bringing the word on Sunday to all of us, giving us something to gnaw on. But what are we doing with that during the week? So the ability to challenge people that we need to take ownership in our personal walk with Christ.
Yeah. After I asked you the question and I saw your face, it was funny because I had this moment where I was like, well, it's fun to talk to people who I feel like maybe there's some like similar wavelength and brains. I don't like it when people ask me that question. What are you excited about? Because it's almost like, and I asked you, but it's like there's a loadedness to it of like, well, what if I'm not excited? What if I'm actually terrified and nervous and scared?
I am excited.
But also like, but just like working through those emotions. Like if you want me to feel something right now, I know I'm going to get there, but right now I might be more like really locked in and focused, or whereas other people, even just the word excited is like, I'm not an excitable person. So I don't know. I'm not excited about, but I don't know. Just, it was funny.
Yeah, maybe that came across wrong. Can we like back up? No, I'm kidding. I'm excited, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't completely overwhelmed.
Yeah,
and I
honesty.
I say that because I've had a handful of people say, so who's going to come fill your role? And it's like, no, like,
it's me.
No, that's me too. I'm going to continue what I've been doing and take on a portion
moving
of
full time and adding the hours in.
So I think excited, yes. Overwhelmed with trying to figure out how to balance two roles. Yeah. That's the part that brings the anxiety.
Yeah. We briefly talked about, so at Marshall campus, if you're an attender of the Marshall campus, one of the big questions that immediately came up, we've tried to answer it. We'll keep answering it because I know it can be hard sometimes, like, wait, what now? The plan is tentatively, meaning we don't have a clear vision beyond probably the school year, but tentatively to say, at least for now, we're going to continue in this sort of like live preaching with people that we believe in, that especially Pastor Ken, a few others, that will be part of a teaching team. I'll probably go there a few times. We might sometimes incorporate some videos just if there's times that we want to talk to the whole church at once. But you and I had even mentioned in a conversation that maybe that's something that you even want to start to step into.
Sure.
Have you ever preached a sermon before? Like what you might call
not beyond a staff chapel.
Yeah. But that is something you're potentially interested in trying. Like, step out and.
Absolutely. It's, those insecurities start to rise up again within me. Do I know enough? Do I have the ability to do that? I've had you and others speak that into me. And I do believe that is something that I will perhaps step into more of in the future. Yeah. We're just trying to,
figure this out right now.
Find our footing right now.
Which I think I just want to say it because if there are people listening like, wait, like is Brit going to preach? The shortest answer I can give is the door is wide open, but I'm not pushing you through it.
Sure.
Love to see you on the stage preaching. But let's just focus on this for now.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. So at least in the meantime, and then if that becomes, you start stepping in, joining the rotation, I think it'd be great. So I personally think that there's that we're missing the voice of women on this platform. Personally, I always say like half of the world's population are women, and like all we ever hear from is men. So I'd be excited about seeing you have the opportunity to do that more, but really want to just let you sort of walk this journey at a pace that makes sense for you and your family.
Yeah.
And then I guess lastly, I would say this, and we can kind of maybe wrap this up, but I started with that story, and I don't think I'd ever told you that about that meeting I had with everyone at that table. Like thinking in our head about what we're capable of, about what we do or don't have, all these kind of things. It's like, I'll give you some advice here on the podcast. If that ever goes away, I think you're in trouble.
I would agree with that.
When you stop remembering that you really don't have what it takes, that's when you start veering off into dangerous places.
Right.
If I wake up tomorrow and think I got this handled, that's probably the least handle I would have ever on anything here. I just am completely overwhelmed every day and like don't know what I'm doing half the time. And like, I think there's a part of me for so long, for so many years, that felt that and said, well, therefore I shouldn't do this job. And it wasn't until God was like, no, that's how I want you to do this job.
Yeah.
Is that every day you wake up and remember you don't have what it takes. You don't know what the right answers are. And if you don't come and sit at my feet, you're going to fail. And I think like that's sort of the like the heartbeat of things. But then there's also okay, but do you actually have skill sets that translate, which is like, it's always sort of this fun conversation of like, hey, God can give you, but it's like, you know what, you're probably not actually a good fit for that. And I would just say like everyone that knows you, everyone that knows you that heard about this, like, oh yeah. Like nobody was like, oh, I don't know. Like everybody was, oh yeah, great. And I think that alone is a sign that apart from I need Jesus and his Spirit every day, like God has gifted you and wired you for this. He has prepared you for it. The things that you naturally need to do a job like this, he has given you.
Yeah.
And everybody sees it. It's probably better that we don't see it ourselves because then we get arrogant or something. I don't know. But everybody sees it. And in the short time I've known you, I've seen it. And when that group of people at that table, and then we talked to our elder board about it, and it wasn't even a discussion with our elder board. It wasn't like, let's have it was like everyone at the table was like, yep. And that's just a sign that like, yeah, you're ready for this. And to the amount that you should ever be ready for something and not need some of the Holy Spirit to keep filling in those weaknesses and his grace being sufficient. So it's going to be good. I just wish we could give you a little more clarity. I wish we could give everyone like, tell us exactly what's going to happen over the next year. It's like, we're going to
I would pay for that.
I don't know.
Gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I have been pushed outside of my comfort zone more times than I can count in my short 5-6 years in ministry. And looking back, I talk to Jake about this all the time. I wouldn't change a single moment of it because it has pushed me to the feet of Jesus time and time and time again. And that is where I've experienced the biggest growth.
Yeah. And to not make it super spiritual, but I've been in Samuel lately. In that moment when Samuel looks at Saul and says, God's rejected you as king, and he's going to look for someone who has a heart after him. It's like, what does that mean? It's not perfection. David wasn't perfect. It's not sinlessness. David sinned a lot. It was just a desire to sit at God's feet and say, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's like all we can keep relying on. So moving forward, we'll wrap this up. Devin and Brit are here until the end of September. Right. Starting already. So we started this month. You've already began to move into somewhat of this role of like, you're going to spend the rest of, we're currently mid-August right now. You have the next 6 weeks to continue figuring things out.
6 weeks.
Build a binder.
Please send me ice cream.
Yeah. But still starting October 5th is when you'll release up in the role. Right. If you are someone who attends Marshall campus, maybe if I could just say a few quick things about expectations. What I would say is, tell me as a person that goes to church here what this is. it would look like this. Once Devin and Bree do step away, that's the moment that all of these sort of things will take effect. So for the next 6 weeks, Devin is still in that role.
Right.
He's still serving as the pastor of the campus. You'll take over those responsibilities in October. Really, if you say like, well, what's the difference? The biggest difference is just not preaching. Like everything else is going to be very similar. So Britt's going to be stepping onto the executive leadership team of our church. So all big high-level decisions of Woodland Church, you're going to be a part of the same way that Devin was. Specific level questions and issues and decisions related to Marshall campus are going to be primarily sort of in your hands. We'll discuss them as a team, but you'll be overseeing everything that happens on the Sunday morning there. So if you attend Marshall, for all of the sort of day-to-day leadership things, that is what Britt will be stepping into. And so you'll still be part of a larger network. We are one church that meets in 2 locations, but I just want people to understand that that's kind of the dynamic. It'll also be, there will be times and places where as we're moving forward and we're exploring this, there will be some things that will just naturally look different.
Sure.
And part of the reason some things will look different is not that, well, now that Devin is leaving, the Battle Creek wants to come in and take over. That's actually the wrong perspective based on a wrong understanding, which was, and I want to say this, hopefully you hear the way I'm saying it. Well, the leadership of quote unquote Battle Creek was always the leadership of Woodland Church. The lead pastor of Woodland Church was always technically responsible for both campuses. So if it feels like maybe there's change happening, it's not a new change. It might just be like it's more evident during this season that Marshall campus was always a campus of Woodland Church. And also for a season of time, Devin was leading the campus without a lead pastor of Woodland. So for those of you who maybe you're listening and you've attended Marshall and you just started coming maybe like a year and a half ago, well, you've never actually known what the campus would look like with a lead pastor over the whole church. So I would say just be prepared to expect to see some things that look a little bit different in terms of there just is a lead pastor over all of Woodland Church now. And in this season, we are going to have to offer a lot more support maybe than Devin might have needed having run it himself for 5 years.
Sure.
So don't be surprised if you maybe see a few more people who are normally Battle Creek showing up on Sunday mornings, helping with things like music or tech or different things. Don't be surprised if you hear from me more. If you show up on a Sunday morning and I'm on a video screen, it's not like, oh, Pete's taking over here. It's just remember, like the vision here is that we're one church, that we're in 2 different locations. And so you might see more of that than you have in the past when there wasn't even a lead pastor on staff.
Yeah.
So,
and on the flip side, because our Marshall folks aren't generally over at the Battle Creek campus, what you might not realize is there are Marshall folks who come over and help with worship every once in a while. There was a time when Marshall Kidsmen folks were over here helping. So again, it's not a one or the other.
And
it's
Devin
both
would come over here and preach sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. It really, I think this is going to be a new season that for some people is going to feel like a major change, but really it's more of like, actually, this is kind of always what it was.
Right.
It just has been it's been a weird couple of years across the board. So, but I appreciate you, really do. I really appreciate you stepping into this. I'm praying for you, and I really do. As an Enneagram 5, I don't like saying things I don't believe. I really do believe in you. I really do. I
am excited.
I'm very excited.
I am excited.
Look,
and I appreciate the prayers.
When people ask me what I was excited about coming here and taking this job, I would say like, I'm not thinking about excitement at all. I'm thinking about I'm overwhelmed. My head is spinning. Excitement to me is like, I don't know, am I excited to go on vacation or something? No, right now I'm locked in mentally.
Yeah.
But then once I got here, began to settle in, that's when I'm like, and that excitement started to grow for things. So but then I'm also just not an excitable person. I'm very kind of middle of the road, calmish. My wife is an excitable person.
Yes, she is.
She really is an excitable person.
There's a difference between excited and the expectation, anticipation. It is God, this is your church. Have your way. Show us the next steps and we will follow.
Good way to end right there. Let's do it. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Next week, we're going to starting a new series looking at lies that the devil tells us called Same Old Tricks. So we'll probably be here talking through the first week, and the primary lie that we think that we're talking about is just that we can't trust God, that he's not really good. And so going to be diving into Genesis 3 and that whole story. And we'll unpack it probably more in the podcast next week, as long as no one else quits before that.
Gosh. Okay.
Bad joke. No. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.